It's 7:07 on breakfast. Tensions between the US and Russia have kicked up a notch over the weekend, with America launching airstrikes on alleged Syrian chemical weapon targets. Russia has condemned the attacks, sparking concerns this could be the beginning of the next world war. Joining us now to unpack it all is global security expert Robert Patman. Kia ora, good morning, Robert. What is the significance of these strikes?
Well, it's clearly an attempt to degrade the chemical weapons arsenal of Assad, and there's anger amongst the Western countries because they tried to table a resolution, UN resolution last week, asking for an independent inspection following the attack in Duma last week, which was responsible for more than 70 deaths, and Russia blocked the resolution in the United Nations Security Council. And I think this is a signal not only to the Assad regime, but also to Russia. Russia had promised, under the terms of a 2013 deal with the United States, that all chemical weapons from Syria had been removed. And that clearly is not the case. And I think that part of this effort is somewhat episodic. It's certainly not mission accomplished, as Mr. Trump claims, is an effort to send a message both to Assad and also to its backer, principal backer, Russia, that this can't continue.
Is it legal?
It's probably not legal, but is it, under the terms in which the UN Security Council operates, possible to stop the use of chemical weapons without illegal action at the moment? Because, as we know, one of the unsatisfactory and dysfunctional things of the international system at the moment is that five member states have veto power. They can block any action they don't like, which means it's very difficult to form a consensus on taking steps to prevent the illegal use of chemical weapons.
Why would Assad use chemical weapons? I thought he'd effectively won.
Well, he hasn't effectively won. He is propped up by... This is a minority regime. The army is not much stronger than 18,000. He depends heavily on support from the Russians, who even provide his personal security detail, and the Iranians. And they have kept him in the game. And although they have made considerable progress, that's as much because of the disarray of the opposition as to the strength of the regime. And as I say, the regime owes its survival largely to Russian and Iranian support.
If the West, the likes of the UK, France and the US, knew where these chemical weapons were being held, and indeed that's where they've targeted these strikes, why didn't they strike earlier?
Well, that's a very good question. I think because they were, you know, at the end of the day, these powers do not really want to be involved in Syria. And you could say that Syria is terrible testimony to the inaction not only of the Western world, but the world generally. The world has stood by for 7 years while Syria has torn itself apart. This dictatorship has been prepared to kill large numbers of people in order to keep its place as government of the country. You know, let's be quite clear about this. More than 300,000 Syrian civilians have been killed. 4 million have had to flee the country, some of whom have ended up in Europe and some of whom ended up in this country. And more than 7 million Syrians have been dislocated. The world has looked on.
What now?
Well, it would be nice if what's in motion at the moment is the three Western countries involved, the United States, the UK and France, have tabled a motion to try to bring about an end to bring about a peaceful resolution of the conflict. This is belated, but there have been many attempts before, but on 12 occasions, the veto has been exercised by Russia to block attempts to bring about a diplomatic solution. We can't be optimistic, but what we may hope is that people may begin to put more pressure on Russia to moderate its absolute support for Assad. If Assad was not confident of Russia's support, then he might be much more flexible on the negotiating table.
All right, thanks for your time and your expertise as always. We really appreciate it. That is Rob Patman with us this morning.
Thanks, Joe.